Welcome, everybody, to another Microsoft Unboxed pod. This is episode 66, I believe. I'm your host today, Kareem Anderson, and I'm joined by.
David Allen. Hope everybody's doing well out there. And if I seem a little weird, I'm doing it outdoors today. We've had some unfortunate family issues. We're having to deal with medical issues. So if I'm waving at gnats, just give me a little grace here. Just trying to keep the gnats out of the way, folks.
He has not lost his mind. There are actual bugs you may or may not be able to see on screen. So if you see him swatting, that is what that is. If you see him swatting excessively, we will call a paramedic or something. We will keep that in mind as we continue through. But he is outdoors. Don't let the background fool you. We took a little bit of time. I was on vacation, so I apologize for being away. But we are back. We are going to try and get in the flow of things. This may be a shorter pod. Just again, we are have some extenuating circumstances, but we will not try and leave you without the information that you need for your Microsoft week. This week, we will be talking actually about Copilot. Microsoft wants to give it a personality and a facelift for technology that didn't have a face to begin with. So we're going to get your thoughts on that. Microsoft is also warning researchers are, not the company itself, about what jobs may be at risk due to the AI apocalypse. We'll also be going over Microsoft's $76.4 billion quarter, which beat expectations, at least when it comes to cloud services and AI and Azure. But for those of us who are consumers, it was kind of flat, if not kind of in a negative spin. We will talk about all of those and how each division did. Um, Prior to that, at the beginning of the week, Microsoft/Nadella came out to try and assuage the remaining few employees at Microsoft. And I say few sarcastically. Microsoft is I think they employ 200,000 employees or something like that across the world. But they did have some steep cuts. I think as of January, they're up to about 12,000 employees gone. But Satya Nadella came out with a memo, which seemed unwarranted, large in part to the way it sounded. But I guess he was out there trying to rally the troops and the low morale that a lot of people at Microsoft might feel. So we'll go over that. Uh, Link to Windows, which is Phone Link, gets a redesign. And Dave wants to talk about that. For those of you who are Android users, this might be of use to you. Adobe finally delivers on a long awaited promise. This is something that I believe goes back to the Snapdragon uh,
Yep.
X chipset and the Surface Pro X, but we're finally getting that delivery. And we'll give you the highlights on that. If you are a Premiere Pro or After Effects user, you may be wanting to stay to hear about that. Lastly, we'll be talking about our free play days. We like to end the podcast and end the week on something fun to do, which for us happens to be gaming. For you, it may be something else, but as the podcast grows, we will incorporate all that as well. I've talked a lot, but I do need to kick off this next section. Before I do, I just wanted to let David jump in if he had anything he wanted to say before we get started with the
Now,
news.
other than we've got a lot to talk about here. I think the link to Windows is going to be a big deal for some folks. But I think really what you're kind of getting ready to lean into is we have a $1 trillion company still laying off employees and still complaining that they're not making enough money in some areas. Now, we had sympathy, we had maybe a little bit of sympathy and no empathy this week, and I'll let you take it from there.
Yeah, we are knees deep. I say knees deep. We got to be chin deep in AI at this point. We've been talking about it for the last 2.5 years. It seems to be the only conversation people are discussing, at least in our sector. And if you guys are sick of it, believe we are as well. We have found some uses for it, but it just seems to be all talk, especially when you have Sam Altman out there constantly trying to hype this thing up. With that being said, Microsoft wants to join in by saying, hey, we are going to give Copilot an appearance. For those of you who have been living under a rock, Copilot is their AI platform that basically is underpinned by ChatGPT, whatever latest models they have. Copilot uses most of those with a few other small language models built in as well. What it does is it's an icon in Windows that you click on and brings up a panel, uh, which is basically looks like a text editor that you can start to offer prompts for, and then it kind of goes on from there. People have been using it, you know, with middling success for Microsoft. But if you're a ChatGPT or Gemini user, you probably have seen more use of it. What Microsoft wants to do now, though, is give an expressive blob-shaped avatar. I don't know why. What are your thoughts on this before I get into more of the details?
I think if you take a wider picture, when you said the word avatar, something coming on, what have people always gotten involved in? And when you're in video games, you're customizing your character. When you're on social media, you're putting in those customizations. I think this is an effort, to tap into the personal taste of users to see if we can get you to adopt Copilot, to get you to use it, and eventually get you to subscribe to something so they get those dollars back and make those investors happy. And, I don't know that people are going to bite into that. I'm not.
Whoa, 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 whoa. You, sir, are not the CEO of an AI company. And let me give you the pitch that he wants to give everybody else. This
Okay.
is, I believe, yeah, this is from Mustafa Suleiman, who's the AI CEO of Microsoft. And his pitch for, now listen, before you start making judgments, tell me if this lands with you. A personalized AI companion will evolve with the person. It will age with you. So, you say you are a 40 something year old man. This AI will start off at 40 and age with you. So it'll get the grays as well. It'll get the receding hairlines and it'll get the memory loss. It won't get the same aches, but don't you want your AI to do that? It also will pitch a creative and productive support. So it'll reaffirm the things that you're doing and encourage you to do others. And then, over time, this will gain your trust. This is what Clippy never did. Clippy never got old. That was a problem with Clippy. That's why people were turned off, right?
Kind of sounds like a nagging partner in a relationship, really.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I mean, this is what they wanted to look for. For those of you who are listening, picture a marshmallow with two black dots for eyes and a weird mouth. That is their vision for it. Again, I think they're going for the androgynous look for this thing, so you don't have it as a male or female, which is going to be interesting how it ages because those are sort of identifiers for male and female. We age differently. Uh, so I don't know how this thing is going to age. Right now, the thing looks like a very young marshmallow. To be said, it will have fluid expressions, and it's supposed to be responding positively or negatively to prompts as you kind of give it to them, and it contains shapes. So if it's happy about something, it will turn itself. So imagine an emoji that you ask questions to, and it appears on the screen. This just seems like more clutter. And to your point at the beginning, this is part of the $81 billion that Microsoft was to invest into AI while also letting go of 6,000 employees all at once. So I'm not saying there's a correlation here. I mean, I guess there is. I'm not saying there's a
I
causation.
will.
There isn't. They didn't let go of 6,000 people, and we got the funny happy marshmallow face. But there is correlation that if you're not working on AI, you could be seen as expendable, and as a result, this is what we're getting for AI. What are your thoughts on that before we move to the next topic?
I just want to know how many jobs were lost when we got this marshmallow looking thing here.
Oh, he did it, ladies and gentlemen. He tied them together.
I mean, there's a graphic artist somewhere that came up with this idea. There's an animator somewhere that came up with this idea. But I just,
And they were promptly
yeah,
fired and replaced by AI.
exactly. And I get it. I get what they're trying to do. Now, all jokes aside, I get that they're trying to make it more personable. They're trying to get people to adopt it. But I think for us older folks that, as you mentioned, dealt with Clippy and some of the others that came along, the companies tried to make personal. I just, I'm not sure. I'm not going to say people won't adopt it because, people adopt these avatars and, all these filters on TikTok and Facebook and all that type of thing. I'm not saying people won't adopt it, but I'm leery that they will.
I mean, I will end with this. To what extent? Again, this feels like we are retreading the voice AI digital assistant thing. Again, people want quick answers and responses. I don't know if they want all the extra fluff. They don't necessarily want something that has a personality. They just want the end result of that. I don't need to deal with an additional personality. I have a whole family. I have a whole set of friends. I don't. You have a social life on social media. You don't want another person or another thing in your life that you have to, I guess, take into account when it comes to emotions or empathy or the rest of it. So, we'll see. We'll see. I feel like this will all end just like Clippy did, but I could be proven wrong.
And I think there's also a point here. I think we've all seen the CES videos where AI based humans. There is a point here that this, as you mentioned, having to account for something else. There is a point that this becomes too real, and I think that's a place we need to stay away from, and I think that's a place that people need to balance out because that is a real place that people fall into.
And for
And
everyone out there that's saying, "Oh, I want this. I encourage this. I want this I'm excited for this." I will ask you one question: where's your Tamagotchi now?
yeah,
Exactly. It's
mhm.
dead or in a drawer somewhere. Last thing, next thing we got robots are coming for the job. So uh, I might have upset my new replacement with this last topic, with our previous topic. According to Microsoft, Microsoft research report, they did an analysis of which jobs are most likely to be impacted by generative AI, and they did this through a series of measures. One of them being which professions are using AI the most, and there's a full list. So for those of you who are worried about the upcoming AI apocalypse, I will let you know in 1 second which jobs, if your job is on that list, and if you need to perhaps maybe move into a different profession. The top 40 jobs using AI applications the most, according to this Microsoft research thing that was done, I believe, I forget it, Cornell University, if I'm not mistaken, are interpreters and translators. That seems understandable. Historians, so if you're in the education sector, you might be looking over your shoulder. Passenger attendants, sales representatives and services. We've talked about this, that customer service will move from the Philippines and India to online and AI. A lot of those will be replaced. I believe they have the marking at like 1,142 uses for employment. Writers and authors, sadly, customer service representatives, CNC tool programmers, telephone operators, ticket agents, and travel clerks. So, Live Nation will become that much more complicated to use. Broadcasters, announcers, and radio DJs, I was kind of interested to see brokerage clerks and some other ones, telemarketers, concierge services, a lot of stuff that, we were talking about off mic, which were some of the desk jobs that we were all kind of looking to saddle ourselves with and, make a middle income wage, those are going to be targeted, or at least using it the most. Uh, for those of us who are, before I move on to that, what are your thoughts on those, sectors of white collar jobs that we were supposed to be safe in, data scientists, computer programmers, things like that, that we were encouraged to do over the last, 15 to 20 years, are now being the ones that use AI the most?
I don't want to put this. I feel like we're seeing it prematurely. Like the generation before us, those jobs aged out into technology, into computers. We were told to be programmers to do those jobs. Now we're seeing our jobs that we were told to get be phased out by AI, and I don't think there's any stopping this. I really don't. Sad to say, but as long as a company can get something that's basically becomes free at a certain point. An AI bot, an AI, anything that becomes free at a certain point that will replace my job and your job, they're going to do that. And they're going to take my salary and your salary and put it in their pocket. And
Okay. Yeah, good.
I think we're going to have a problem. I've noticed it with some customer service issues already. Where I know that's an AI bot asking me a question, where I know that's an AI bot that I'm talking to. The problem they may run into is people like when people need help, they want personality. They want somebody to understand on the other end of that line. They want somebody to understand their situation, have some feeling for the situation they're in. And I noticed that because it's a situation that I'm dealing with right now. That empathy and that sympathy and that feeling on the other end of the line is very appreciated. And I think that's going to turn away some customers in the end because there's been things that I have had to deal with in the last 2 weeks, just entering information into places that I know that's an AI bot doing it. Whereas a year ago, a human was doing that same job.
With that being said, let's see what human jobs will still be left. Ironically, uh, it's the in the lower sector. It's real world interaction jobs, skilled trades, athletes, dredge operators. This is kind of what the report showed that are using the least: bridge and lock tenders, water treatment plants, foundry molders and core makers, pile driver operators, orderlies, motorboat operators, logging roofers, gas compressors, tire builders, massage therapists. Or, basically the things that can't be replaced. With automation just yet. Once they put the AI into robots, maybe those jobs will get taken away. But to your point, when it's stuff in the medical sector, hospitality, things like that, those jobs are at least safe for now. So again, if you are a computer engineer, maybe pick up a hobby as a massage therapist. Who knows when you'll need to make the full leap? But that's what we got from the report. We will keep following, obviously, this news, and we will report with you guys as we see the adoption and transformation of the job sector thanks to AI. The next thing we're going to move on to is Microsoft's $76.4 billion quarter, which was aided and abetted mostly by AI and cloud. Now, as much as we want to give Microsoft the uh, cloud, the AI moniker that they want. A lot of this again is Azure, Intelligent Cloud, which was the star performer, had about a 27% increase in revenue, driven by a large growth in Azure, about 39%. It beat estimates this time around. Again, this confirms that Microsoft's bet on the cloud is still paying off. Uh, Unfortunately, the hardware division seemed to be the more lagging indicator. Even Windows was up for the most part. Again, because that's pure software. It's just licenses to OEMs, which shows that the computer market in general is doing better. But Microsoft's own computer efforts, like the Surface lineup, is not anywhere near its 2 billion height. We're also seeing lagging indicators in Xbox sales as well. Obviously, I think they're still taking a hit from cutting the HoloLens program altogether and in investments in that. What are your thoughts on Microsoft? I guess feeling justified in the 80.1 billion dollar investment in AI to now have a pretty impressive quarter slash close to the fiscal year.
Congratulations, Microsoft. You had a good quarter. And I say that with the same chuckle that you gave, but can you sustain that? That's where I think there's an issue here. I think AI is going to become the thing people are tired of hearing about before they purchase it. And I understand that you've got all these investors, and we have mentioned this in many pods before now. I understand you've got all these investors that won't see what AI is doing. They won't see those subscription numbers. But you're shoving it down people's throats. Again, it kind of ties back to the personality story we just talked about. Is giving it personality going to make a 25, 30-year-old pick it up and say, yes, AI is great? Is it going to make a 50-year-old pick it up and say AI is great? Maybe, maybe not. But ultimately, you have had a 76 to $80 billion quarter. You're still getting.
I don't know if that's on my end or his end, but I will pick up where he is perhaps going to leave off, which is talking about Microsoft betting on AI, but not necessarily having a clear bullseye as to what consumers want from AI. Uh, $81 billion is a lot to invest in, and to tell investors to say, "Hey, we'll figure out what it is consumers or customers are really jonesing for." Now, with that being said, we just talked about the job markets that are being replaced, and maybe that is where they're justifying this investment of 81 billion, saying, "Hey, we may not be it may not be this platform or software that is being used on Windows by you or I or the average person to, craft recipes or come out with workout plans or regimens or anything like that. This is to replace customer service call centers. Even the $3-4 they make an hour plus whatever benefits we offer them. You scratch that out, and you have an employee who works 24/7, doesn't need a break, doesn't need a vacation, never gets sick, is always has the same response and monotone that is necessary. It doesn't, isn't liable for anything when it comes to, tone or responses. Maybe that's a benefit for them, and maybe that's where Microsoft's seeing this. And again, this is why they quarter went so well for them. So again, we'll keep an eye on their quarter. For those of us who are more entertained by the hardware stuff, we'll keep an eye definitely on that. We have school season, back to school coming up, and we also have a holiday season, which are both heavy on hardware. So for people who are about to go to college or about to start another year at in middle school or high school, we'll see what devices they pick up. If the Surface device is even interesting to anybody with these Copilot Plus PCs, or if they will now go out and grab an Xbox or the handhelds that will have, if they choose Windows on it or Steam on it. Those are all going to be factored into how well Microsoft does in the next 2 quarters. So, with that being said, we're going to move on to an unfortunate memo sent out by the head of Microsoft. I titled it a soothing memo out of sarcasm, but based it for brutal reality. It's a weird one. It's an odd one. It's our favorite Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella basically coming and saying that he's acknowledging the recent layoffs and what could be a cut in the morale of current Microsoft employees. The memo describes takes on an empathetic tone, but the message is basically an unsure one. It's saying that the company is evolving, and basically tells every employee that, hey, if you are tasked with something with AI, your job may be safe for now. If you're not, you may want to start putting AI in whatever it is you're doing, because they are going all in. And it kind of ends with, hey, we are all in this together. But he does use the phrase franchise value. And that's where I think it takes a turn, meaning, again, your efforts in whatever you're doing in Microsoft need to turn a value, and they need to definitely, and the value that they see going forward is AI. So maybe I'm wrong, maybe I misread it. We have it on the site. If you want to go read the full thing, you can click on the link that I wrote, and it'll take you to the full memo. It was first reported by, I believe, The Verge. We also got information from the guys over Windows Central. Everyone's kind of reporting roughly the same thing, but again, what are your takes on this memo from Satya Nadella?
Is LeBron James working at Microsoft? And I have a reason to a reason for making that comment, because it's the first thing that came to mind when the whole franchise thing come to be, and hearing the way you just described that kind of even made me feel more strong that way. I feel like it's a sports team. Microsoft is a sports team. We're using AI, so as long as you're using AI and scoring points and making shots, you're in. You're running the right offense. You're playing the right defense. You're burning that Copilot down. You're including it in all of your projects. Don't want to run our offense. Don't want to run our defense. Well, we could trade you to another team or just fire you altogether. That's exactly the way it felt to me. And I used the basketball example to have a little fun with it, but that's the way it felt. And I think that's the way I would love to, if someone inside Microsoft that works there, and is a part of things going on would talk. I would love to know what the atmosphere inside the Microsoft campus is, because for somebody that read that and then saw your write up about it and then read it again, I still feel it feels like it's a sports team. You buy into AI like you buy into playing a man to man defense in basketball. If you don't buy in, we're going to send you somewhere else. And that's exactly the way it felt to me.
And like I said, I feel like much of the reporting from this particular memo is around that same thing. It's you're safer now with AI, and also being said at the same time is that Microsoft wants to replace even their own engineers with AI. So it's like you're
Mm-hmm.
creating your own downfall, even if you are so bought in. And again, I'm not here to be negative or harp on the company. It's just a company. I am here to advocate for all employees. So if you find yourself working hard for your own replacement, maybe jump ship now, and maybe that small effort could be a monkey wrench in their plans. If you can't afford to do so, start preparing for the next phase. I suppose it's just as much as Touch and Dell wants to be transparent about it and empathetic at the same time. I don't know if those two coincide. You may need to pick one lane because it's a very confusing message. Now, we've said all this to say that Microsoft, again, at the top of this, still employs about 200,000 people. This isn't, a struggling startup with 16 to 20 people, and they're looking for ways to kind of squeeze out a Windows update or anything like that. They still have more than enough employees to, stay afloat. But it is telling that a almost $2 trillion company had to shave almost 11,000 people within 6 months of the year. So we'll keep an eye on it. We're always reporting on it for you guys. I always, again, try to support and back the employees over the company itself, no matter who the company happens to be or how much I enjoy their software or hardware. We got a more fun thing to talk about, I think, and this is from the remaining people at Microsoft. It's linked. It's Phone Link. This is something you want to talk about.
Yes, PhoneLink is one of my favorite Microsoft tools because for those that have paid attention, I get really strangely involved in all of the integration of products and how things work together. And kind of what you saw this week was the first, I call it the first redesign of Link to Windows, aka PhoneLink. First thing you'll notice is you'll have a nice bridge between your photos and your Windows PC. You'll be able to import your photos from your phone to your PC and vice versa. You'll also notice there's been a completely redesigned interface, which I do have here on the PC I'm using. It is vastly different. The new Link to Windows supports a modern, clean look, makes navigation a breeze. Microsoft has kind of made it more centric. That's probably the best way to say it. The onboarding process is a little easier for those that adopted Phone Link in the beginning. The onboarding process was a little bit clunky. The onboarding process is much easier. You have ways to control your PC, send files, cast to your PC, and let's see what else do we have. Reset activity. You can see what's going on with your battery status, etc. from your PC. You've got remote actions where you can, as I said, send files back and forth. Now, if you want to check this out, you can jump in the dev channel is where it is right now. You can download it, check it out. I like it. I have it on this PC. I've not really seen any bugs. Um, it's starting to feel like your phone is a part of your operating system. That's the best way I know how to describe it. I like what I see. I'm supportive of what's going on here. Hopefully, they continue this trend.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing, again, they've been making some strides on the desktop. I think the biggest comes on the mobile device. So if you have an Android phone, I don't know if you can, if an iPhone, you can maybe experiment. I'm not sure. I think it's mostly Android, but it's a mobile experience. Prior to this, it was just essentially a launcher to
Yeah.
activate or scan QR codes to then interact with the desktop. You didn't do much else with it. You could see a link or a list of all your linked devices, and that was about it. And to your point, it was very hard to jump on board with this because again, you had to scan a QR code. You had to connect through via Bluetooth or Wi-Fi, if I'm not mistaken. So you had to match your phone. It was cumbersome, so to speak. This new mobile version allows you to uh, do things or interact with your PC via your phone itself. So, like you said, send files as opposed to going straight to the desktop and then pulling files from your phone on there. You can send them straight to there. Same thing, I think you can share web pages as well, or web page status. So if you're using Edge and you have 17 tabs open on the mobile version because you were searching for something while you were out and about, you can then send that to your desktop and pick up where you left off. You can cast to PC. So if you are watching something, maybe you're watching a particular video on YouTube and you don't feel like searching for it, researching for it on your desktop, you can do it straight from your phone onto there. So, I mean, and you can kind of open and close files on your phone and reopen them on your desktop. So it's not a one-to-one for
Not
any of
yet.
the integrated Apple stuff, but it is getting very close. So I'm looking forward to playing around with this. I just got the Samsung Z Fold, and this thing is pretty awesome. It's a desktop unto itself, but with a phone link, it's become even better. I'll talk about the phone later on at the end of the pod. Move on to another section. We got Adobe coming up next.
Finally, Adobe went all in. Well, no, no, let me back up. They went part way in. On the Windows on ARM, we finally get After Effects and Premiere, which those are the two that people have really been barking about. I know we've had, Photoshop, and we've been able to run it under the Prism layer for a while. But I actually did a small video edit last night for somebody and actually used the Premiere here on my Snapdragon laptop because what I'm dealing with right now, I need all the battery life I can get, all the performance I can get wrapped into one. So Snapdragon has kind of been my choice. It performed really well, I have to say. Now you can get it in beta. I did notice for those that are not in the beta part of the Creative Cloud, when you go inside of your Creative Cloud app, that is something that you will have to enable. So keep that in mind. And there are, of course, things that aren't supported. For example, I'll just give you a few here. In Premiere Pro, you're lacking support for ProRes, JPEG 2000, MXF, and Motion JPEG, and MKV for some of you folks that are doing streaming. I know MKV is the default for OBS Studio, so keep that in mind. No hardware accelerated playback and export of H.264 and HVAC and MP4, so keep that in mind. Absence of support for raw video formats like Apple ProRes, we mentioned that. Let's see, for After Effects, the list is a little bit shorter. You have no support for motion, JPEG, and MKV. We have no support for ProRes, as mentioned. Let's see what else. And just for FYI, Adobe says they are working to resolve these issues and provide updates as they become available. Users are encouraged to install the latest Qualcomm Adreno GPU drivers for the best performance. For me,
Yeah.
basic everyday editing work. For some folks that are needing all these codecs and all these exports, maybe doing this right now on your Snapdragon laptop probably isn't where you're doing it anyway. But for
Yeah, this
basic on the go use, I think this works.
this is a beta preview. So hopefully, fingers crossed, we get the final product, fully fledged one by the end of this year. Who knows? It could be in beta for another year or so. But the other things that are included are Audition. So for those of you who do any type of straight audio podcasting or recording or interviewing things like that, you can start editing that in Audition. They have a preview for that. So your preview betas include Audition, Media Encoder, so you get a more performance media encoder, and to your point, Premiere and After Effects. Now these are huge because again, these are probably the 2/3 of the editing creative suite that most people use. Again, we use Lightroom. So people use Lightroom. Photoshop does very well. So when these things are ironed out, this should be the end of the argument for creative people who want to use a Windows PC, but get the benefits of the battery life of a Snapdragon processor. So I'm looking forward to this. It's interesting that some of these codecs aren't supported, especially the H.264 or whatever, because I'm like that. is all your YouTube videos. So I guess you can build out on this thing, and it'll just take forever to export if you were to go back. Because I think you can do Premiere Pro emulated, which will render that, but I don't think you can do Premiere Pro beta and render at the same time. And again, I could be wrong. Maybe the media encoder, that's Premiere as well. So if you send it to, say you create it in Premiere Pro beta and send it to media encoder beta, it'll export it that way. And maybe it'll export it faster. I need to try this out. I haven't had a project. Maybe I'll do it with this podcast itself, and I can report back to you guys next week. But either way, this was promised, like I said, back during the Surface Pro X days. It only was brought up again when Snapdragon finally had a full-fledged processor that could handle it, and that was almost 2 years ago. And they said, hey, we released it in June. Maybe by the end of that year, which was 2023, we'll have a processor, worth for 2023. We'll have the full fledged suite out. They went quiet for almost a year. Here it is now. So those of you rush out and try it, let us know what your thoughts are. If you still maintain the same battery life as well, that's a good question. If your systems are heating up, needing to cool better, or again, if you're able to kind of get the same longevity in your battery life while also getting the same performance, these are good signs. Last thing we're going to talk about is gaming. We got some free play games. We know you guys tend to like when we talk about that. Walk us into
Yes,
this.
I have always, managed to get those posts up for you guys here in the last couple of weeks, and I have. It's been a nice break for me. I know you guys enjoy it. But this week, we got some WWE 2K25 Standard Edition. So for you wrestling fans, jump right on in. We've got Dynasty Warriors Origin and iRobot. Those are your free plays that do require your Game Pass subscription, and we have the Ascent is free for all members, regardless of your subscription level. Now, just remember, these started yesterday, July 31st, and last through Sunday, August the 3rd. And also, don't forget, the discounts on these are pretty good during free play days. So, WWE 2K25 Standard Edition is $34.99. Dynasty Warriors Origin is down to $52.49, and iRobot is marked down to $11.99, and the Ascend is just $7.49. Now, just remember, you get these through the Xbox Store or navigating through your account on your Xbox, going to your subscriptions, and scrolling down to free play days. So jump in, let us know which one of these you prefer. I saw something in the news about a WWE pay-per-view this week because the famed Hulk Hogan passed away. So I know that's why WWE 2K25 is dropped in the free play day. So let us know what you guys like and make sure you pick those up.
Yeah, I think I might jump back into Dynasty Warriors. That was one of my favorite games in college. It was basically like you versus 100 enemies all at once on the screen. It was pretty awesome. Very fun button smasher, so to speak. They throw in some bosses while you're fighting, like I said, upwards of 100 people all on screen at once. So, and they were all attacking at once. So it wasn't like you punch one guy and then punch the next guy and wait. No, you were having to do large attacks to take out 30 to 40 people at once. So if they've improved that, check that out. That'll probably be all the gaming I get to do. I got to work on some house stuff this weekend. But with that being said, I just want to end as well. One other note, like I said, I was on vacation. I was at Comic-Con, and I had brought this bad boy with me. If you guys are looking on screen, anybody listening, it is the Z Fold 7. Previously, I had the Ultra, and it's been fine. The battery life on the Ultra is fine, but its value proposition is in its thinness. This thing, the Z Fold, is almost as thin as that, but opens up, as most folds do. And with that being said, I was able to record panels, audio record, and shoot photos at the same time, which made any of the announcements like they were talking about from the Marvels stuff, the Alien franchise is coming out with a new TV series. I was able to get the panels, all the people that were talking at the panel, while also shooting photos and videos at the same time. This thing, my initial impressions of it are that I think Samsung might have nailed it. I think, while it's expensive, I think people will start to gravitate more towards this. The candy bar thing, I think they've given up on it. When I was out on the floor talking to solicitors and people or dice people or anybody that was out on the floor, when I pulled this thing out, they were like, "Who makes this?" Every time, because I think they were used to the old chunky candy bar Samsung one. And again, we've written about this thing. I've written about it. I think their initial idea, Samsung, was they wanted to force you into the open screen, the inside of the phone, because that's where they put all the effort. It's the idea of a foldable is inside. I think they've given up on that in a good way. I think they relented and said, "All right, fine. If you want to use the front screen as a regular phone, go ahead and do it. If you only want to use the inside screen 50 to 40 to 30% of the time, you're free to do that as well, as long as you're using a folded one." I think that's the way to go. I think it worked for Google. I think it worked for OnePlus. I think it worked for all of the other Asian manufacturers that are out there making foldables. Uh, I think it's about time that they made the front screen, because again, I use the front screen probably about 60% of the time, and that is great when you're trying to put in your boarding pass, when you're making quick calls or doing text or anything like that. That is where it's at. And then the fact that I can open it up, play some games, do some comic reading, do 3 to 4 apps. This thing also has the free windows, so I can put up like 6 of them. So it looks like I'm using my desktop in an 8-inch form. That's enough of me selling this phone. I just wanted to get the initial impressions out there. I don't know if you're ever going to upgrade, because it took you forever to get your current Ultra, but it is definitely worth playing around with if you ever go to a T-Mobile or wherever store you're at, just to play around with the thing.
Well, I'm gonna agree with you. It took me 8 years, folks, to get off the Samsung Galaxy Note 10, and I recently went to the Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra, and I've talked to you a little bit off pod, and I've seen some of the YouTubers talk about it, and I keep looking at my S25 over going, is it going to have to face an early retirement? Because what you're saying there, I agree with, and the phone looks good. That was my big complaint, was that outside screen was just too narrow for these fat fingers to be able to type efficiently and move things around. But now that they have kind of fixed that and made as you said, made the inside secondary,
That's 5 windows
I
open, by the way.
see, that's a multitasker's dream right there.
It's nice, and the camera's great. Battery life is actually, the regular fold. It does pretty well for that. I will put my first impressions on the site hopefully this weekend, and get you guys caught up on that, and then I'll have a full review later. With that being said, we're gonna wrap it up. I'm gonna let David get back to his life. I gotta get back to mine. We are very hungry. It is the weekend. We want you guys to go out and touch grass and enjoy your weekend. Again, if you're not into gaming, you're not into Microsoft tech to the extent that we are, especially on the weekends, go find your favorite food, go listen to your favorite song, go rest in your favorite spot, and do your favorite thing at least once this weekend. We really encourage you guys to do that, and hopefully you'll join us next week, revived, renewed, and ready for more Microsoft news. Where can people find you if they want to tell you what they're doing this weekend?
David PHA 1978. That's over on Blue Sky. Please, I'll be hanging out this weekend. I've had some time to do some reading and consume some content, and I have been scrolling the Blue Skies and kind of seeing what people are getting a feel for. I know we've got a big gaming month coming up. We've got Battlefield 6. It was announced this week. We're seeing a beta this month. We've got Delta Force later this month. We've got the new Gears of War later this month. And of course, we'll see the Madden 26 release for those that are interested. Should be any day now. So, a lot going on for gamers, a lot of ways to have fun.
Yeah, you can find me at Happy Hulk on Blue Sky. I will be talking mostly about the shoe shows I plan on finishing hopefully this weekend, which is Poker Face. If you guys have Peacock, it's awesome. Kind of Murder She Wrote esque type of show, hilarious antics or whatnot. And the other one is Twisted Metal. I don't know if you guys remember the game, but they have a show. It's on season 2, and it is it adheres to the game itself. It takes itself very lightly, very funny, very gruesome, but very much in the same vein as the game. They kind of get that idea. There's not too much behind it, and not too much lore that you need to know about. So if you're an Anthony Mackie fan, if you're a fan of the old game, if you're a fan of just wanton violence and a little comedy behind it, I suggest you guys check that season 2 on Peacock. Again, thank you for joining us. We will see you guys
Thank you,
next
folks.
week. Enjoy your weekend.
Have a good weekend, everybody.
HoloLens and mixed reality, turning dreams to what we see.